Welcome to Commercial Real Estate Pro Network's CRE PN Radio. Thanks for joining us. My name is Jay Darren Gross. This is the podcast focused on commercial real estate investment and risk management strategies. Weekly, we have conversations with commercial real estate investors and professionals who provide their experience and insight to help you grow your real estate portfolio. Today, my guest is a returning guest, Brent Bowers. Brent is an investor and coach with a focus on buying and selling land. And in just a minute, we're going to speak with Brent about the business of buying and selling land and investing strategies. But first, a quick reminder, if you like our show, CRE PN Radio, there are a couple things you can do to help us out. You can like, share, and subscribe. And as always, we encourage you to leave a comment. We love to hear from our listeners. Also, if you want to see how handsome our guests are, be sure to check out our YouTube channel. You can find us on YouTube at Commercial Real Estate Pro Network. And while you're there, please subscribe. With that, I want to welcome my guest back to CRE PN Radio. Brent, welcome back to CRE PN Radio.
You brought me on too quick. I was trying to subscribe to your YouTube channel.
I love it.
Commercial. All right. I'll do that later.
All right.
That's awesome.
That's
a new addition.
Hey, thank you. Got to spike up today. So, Brent, I'm looking forward to our conversation today, but before we get started, if you could share with the listeners a little bit about your background.
I started out in real estate in 2007, and, some say that's the best time to start. Some say that's the worst time to start. When I was in that position, I thought it was the worst time to start, which was 2008 was happening. Now, what I know now, knowing what I know now, I know it was actually the best time to start. And my problem was I threw in the towel too quickly. I got it in my head between my ears that I was not going to make it because I saw others getting out of the business. So, I changed my course a little bit. I went back to school. I joined the military so I could pay for the school and they would pay for my schooling, and was pretty much out of the country until 2013 doing, what the military told me to do. And I was deploying to Afghanistan. I lived in Germany when I wasn't deployed, and pretty much took a break since about 2013, and then started doing something called house hacking when I got back to the States, and then started buying rentals, and then slowly found my way wholesaling houses. And then I stumbled into land. And what's so cool is, the CREPN podcast, there's things out there that educate us on how to buy commercial real estate, because now I have a tax problem. And that tax problem that comes from all this money I'm making in land, I get passive income payments I'm paid every single day for land, sometimes multiple times a day, because we have a little over 100 notes paying us on the land we sell or finance. And we take that money and buy cash flowing assets, buildings, apartment complex, commercial office building, things like that. So I've actually just keep, just stumbling into this stuff. And it's usually because of a problem. It's because of a problem I'm having. So with the commercial real estate, there's nothing better to depreciate and cost segregate and use the tax loopholes that the IRS gives us. So that is a really quick me in a nutshell. But a lot of my business has come from problems I've had. So that's me.
Oh, I love it. I'm just admiring your shirt there. Land, is that a logo for you? That's a great shirt for you if that's you.
Yeah, that's the Land Sharks. Absolutely.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I saw got the shark. The fin and the mouth there. That's awesome.
You got to go to YouTube to check it out.
Yeah, definitely go check that out. Well, it's funny. You started your introduction there, kind of telling your tale there about the timing, 2007, 2008, and I haven't read the tarot cards or I don't have a crystal ball, but it seems like all the people that are talking are kind of looking at the current situation. We're recording this in May of 2022. That there's a lot of economic indicators that suggest we're on the precipice of a similar type event, potential event, I guess, some sort of correction, just based on the money in the system and inflation, blah blah blah. And What I think is kind of cool is that, one thing about all these economic cycles is that they are cyclical. There's the up and the down, and like you were saying, that was the best time to get in, but you kind of threw in the towel too soon. And I'm just kind of curious if you were to kind of use your hindsight and kind of look back at some lessons you learned, or share, if you could share with us some of the lessons you learned and how you think you might be able to apply, or if you've given it much thought about what potentially is coming and how that what you've learned will potentially play out.
Yeah, and going back to 2008, 2009, when I bought that first rental property, it was at the absolute height of the market. And then 2008, end of 2008 happened, and things kind of really just slowed down. It almost stopped for there. It's almost like when you fall off the ladder, you're going to lay there for a minute. And I learned this from a gentleman named Matt Rillera. It's like you lay there for a minute, and it's like, what is broke? And then that's the same thing with like the economy. When that happened, I feel like things just kind of like stood still a little bit. And what we're seeing today is really, I think it's a little different. We're not really dealing with the subprime loans, or, if you can breathe hot air on the glass, you get a loan type thing, because that's what it was in 2007. Now we've gotten so used to having 2%, 3%. I've got a 3.5% loan on a rental property. Can you believe that? Like,
Pretty
that's
good.
just unbelievable. And now rates just went up to like what, 5%, and people are freaking out because now they can no longer afford that $500,000 house. They can only afford the $400,000 house because the rates just went up. So that's going to stop those sales from happening so quickly, because now less people qualify for it. So as more, time goes on the market, things start to slow down. When it sell, like it went from like 6 days sold in one market that I'm in to now 12 days. And then it's just going to increase. Now the moratoriums are over on the foreclosure, or I don't know, they might still be going. It's like back and forth. I'm so confused with these moratoriums now. But as the moratoriums end, more inventory will come. And I'm talking about real estate as a whole. I'm talking about land. I'm talking about houses, I'm talking about fourplexes, triplexes. And I'll tell you, I have an office building, which sucked going through COVID, trying to rent that thing out. But we just had to shift. But so we got interest rates, we got moratoriums ending, and builders are building like crazy. So what does that tell you? Like, I think that tells me prices are going to come down a little bit, because we'll have a little bit more inventory, less buying power with the interest rates, like literally going from like 2% to 5%. So sellers, it might turn into, more of a, I'm not saying it's going to turn into a buyer's market, but it might be more of an even playing field.
Yeah. No, I think that there's a good case to be made for that. Like you said, one of the challenges I think that we all have is that our memory of the last one is what we're looking for the next one. And like you just indicated, you don't think it'll be the same. And we don't have the subprime, and we don't have all the fog of mirror kind of mortgage situation that we had before. So that will be different. But I think that just some sort of a slowdown to where maybe the frenzy is not as hot. Maybe it gives buyers at least a little bit more footing with sellers, kind of thing, and maybe perhaps a little less competition on every deal. Like if you don't buy it within right away, kind of thing. But I think that the other side of that thing that I've come to recognize is that the opportunity is in the change in the marketplace. When the marketplace changes, that creates an opportunity, because there's that mindset that everybody has of this is the market, and then all of a sudden it changes, and they're like, wait. And if you recognize that, that's the opportunity, and you've been in the market, and you're sharp, and you know where you need to be, and relative to what things are, I think that's the opportunity there, and hopefully it'll create some opportunities for all of us if you're
that.
In a good position. But
Opportunity comes with a change, right?
well, it's certainly, I mean, if there's no other lesson to learn, it's the ups and the downs. That's what creates the opportunity. It's the if you're only buying when things are up, and then you're selling when things are down, you've got it all wrong. You've got to, it's in the the down cycle is where you really make your money, kind of thing. And just to be conscious of that, and to uh, be aware of what's going on, and not that everything's going to crash and burn and everything like that, but I think there's clearly signs of a slowdown when everything's going up in cost, and there'll be an adjustment. However, that
Absolutely.
it's just the nature of things. There's only, if you there was something I read the other day, and it's always kind of shocking to me. It's like I think it was like 40% of Americans don't have $1,000 in savings, kind of thing. I was like, wow, that's a pretty scary number when you think about it. Or it couldn't survive any kind of like and it may, however it is, but it just, what you realize is that how many people are basically they have no cushion, kind of thing.
And then they
And
have a car loan too, and a house payment, and then they don't even have the $1,000 in savings. They're in big trouble.
yeah, yeah. And so anyway, that being said, if the market's changing and the costs are going up and they don't have any kind of savings, they have no room for error, kind of thing, which to me will create more, opportunities if you do have capital to deploy. So, but anyway, I wanted to just kind of touch on that. Just again, it was more of kind of a reflection point, just based on where you started and where things are and stuff. But let's talk about your land investing and how I guess kind of your journey. You started off saying that you invested in and I kind of remember a little bit of the story, but a single family rental or something like that, and you were overseas, and if I remember right, there was like the pain of coming back to somebody who destroyed your place, and there was just that it wasn't a good fit based on where you were at, kind of thing. And that's when you kind of threw in the towel, and then you ended up in the land thing. But help us understand kind of, how you got into land, and what you've seen, and where you are now as to how how it's working. 100 notes getting paid daily. That's a pretty good story right there.
Yeah, Darren, you have a magnificent memory. Holy cow, that you remember that from like a year and a half ago. So yeah, I built a team around the land business. So how I came into land was, once again, I had a problem on my hands. I had just paid almost, I think $5,000 roughly for some mailers to go out for a bunch of single family homes in Colorado Springs. And then our battalion commander told us, hey, you're going to the field for 2.5 weeks. You can't bring your cell phones. So I now had a huge problem. I had just went into debt on Amex to pay for these mailers. So I spent money I didn't have to send mailers to people that are going to hopefully return the phone call or call on that mailer because they want to sell their house. And no one's going to be there to answer the phone. So that problem caused me to lose money. And yes, we missed out on some leads. But I did two things with that. One, I hired someone to help me start taking those phone calls and meeting these sellers, because I just surely couldn't do it. And I was working almost 12, 13-hour days on base as an Army officer. And then I was also still searching for answers, listening to podcasts like CREPN, things like that, and just trying to educate myself. And I shared a little bit about this on the last one we did together. But I heard about this guy buying land at crazy discounts and flipping it overnight. And I was like, wait a minute. I am currently right now mailing the tax delinquent list, and I'm filtering out the mobile homes and the office buildings, the industrial. I'm only focused on one little niche, and that's single family homes. And guess what? It seemed like everybody else was focused on that one as well, too. We were all fighting over the dirty, stinky old cat pee houses that have foundation problems in Colorado Springs. And like, I would have to go to a meeting, and I would like rush off base on my lunch break if the seller could meet me at that time. And I would rush there, and I would rush the appointment. And if I didn't get that house under contract, good luck. I was never getting it, because, you have to be a very skilled salesperson to get someone to write a contract with you within about 15 minutes. Like, that is you got to create rapport. You got to learn about the problems, see how you can serve this seller, because most sellers are not going to sell their house at a discounted cash price unless you are going to provide them speed or convenience or serve them in some type of, like creative way to allow them to rent the house back. So that night that I heard that man talking on that podcast about land, I went and called my virtual assistant. I said, hey, you know how we scrubbed out all the land? Can you please put that back in there and send me an Excel spreadsheet as soon as possible? Because I want to mail all these landowners a postcard. So I mailed them a postcard. I mailed 687 postcards out to people that were behind on their taxes. And I thought I was mailing just a regular old tax delinquent list. I was actually mailing the county held tax lien list. What that means for anybody listening to this is basically in Colorado, you had pretty much two lists. You had the list of people that their properties you can buy the tax lien on, make a return on investment. And after 3 years, you can, it becomes deed eligible and you can foreclose. And then there's the other list that the tax lien investors don't buy the tax liens on because the properties suck. Like they're not accessible, they're not buildable, they're blah, 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 they're landlocked, you name it. So I mailed the sucky list, like the land that no one's mailing any offers to or even buying their tax liens. So when these guys got a postcard from me, it was like, when the rivers dry up and there's little puddles left and the fish are starving to death and one little cricket jumps across, it's like explosion of piranhas basically. And that's what happened to my phone. And I was hooked. Like I did 2 deals within about a week's time. Each one of those deals, I bought the first one for $285, sold it to a realtor for $5,000 the next day. I was like, holy crap, this works better than that guy was saying on the podcast. And then the second deal, this is where my brain was broken. Like my mindset changed, my paradigm shift, like Stephen Covey says. That second one I bought for $500 and then sold it on Craigslist the next day for $500 down and $400 a month. And I was hooked. That's where my passive income journey began because I'd already had rental properties. And I pretty much at that time still hadn't made a profit on any of them. But my passive income started and eventually financial freedom because it only took like 10 of those to cover my expenses. And then my geography freedom. And that's where I was like, just gung ho. I would buy any parcel of land as long as I can get it for a discount and sell it for a little more and seller finance it.
That's awesome. So literally that fast, you shifted the focus from the single families to land, and you mentioned that the list was like there's 2 sides to the list. And did you also send to the back tax properties, or if I understood right, there was the properties that were inaccessible that were nobody wanted, which were sounds like those are the people that were calling you. And then you had the others, which were the county tax lien. There was, kind of a thing where there was more of a process. Did you get calls from those people as well?
Oh yeah. I figured out how to mail those guys as well, because first her name is Cindy. She didn't send me that list because she still didn't understand why I wanted that tax lien list, because tax lien investors had already paid those back taxes. I was like, please just send me the list. I am going to buy the land from these people and get the taxes caught up. That way they don't lose it. They make some money and I will keep the taxes caught up. So finally she sent me that list too. And I mailed that. And then I just mailed the entire county list. Like I eventually just started mailing the entire county land list. But I never once took I'd already built the machine for the house buying. So we just kept doing that one too. And we just kept growing and growing. I mean, my team is 9 people now, which is very small actually, but it's perfect.
All virtual, or do you have people local, or how are you set up?
We're all virtual. Several of us are in Colorado, a couple in the Philippines, one guy in India. But yeah, we actually rented out our office. We had a beautiful office. We renovated it. And one thing happened during COVID. We learned that we don't need offices. So we rented it out, and that's another cash flowing asset coming in every month.
Oh, that's awesome. So you started almost by accident. You listened to a podcast. You shifted gears from the single family into the land. You got immediate success within just a week or so. You've got 2 deals. Are you still focused on Colorado specifically, a specific county, or do you how wide is your focus?
Yeah.
And how did you, if it is wider than that, how did you go that, or how did you navigate that from the
Yeah.
first to the where you are now?
We first started in the backyard, and it was actually one county, and I could drive that whole county within like several hours, 3, 4 hours. And then I expanded to the actually 2 counties over, because someone said, "Hey, man, we're doing really well." Because the land business is a very small niche, and there's not a lot of people in it. But I heard from a friend that was doing very well in another county. He's like, "Dude, you got to come on." And so I did. I started mailing that, and then I realized, wait a minute, the cash buyers list, the buyers list of people that I'm serving in this particular county are now asking me for land in the next county over. So we started mailing that one. And then it's funny what happens. Realtors start finding out what you're doing. And then you get on a few podcasts, and then you all of a sudden you're buying land in San Bernardino and then Pennsylvania. And then got my father involved in this, and we're buying land in Florida. My dad's done over 50 something land deals now. He's done
Wow.
manual labor his entire life. And this guy is like the flip king on a 5 by 5 mile radius on one area of his county. Like, he could tell you what's going on in every single road. So he no longer does manual labor.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So when you said like you started in your backyard, was it basically just more people asking you to go, to different counties, or to expand your territory, or were there any parameters that you identified that were key to, the success that you were having in your own backyard?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm a super detailed or calculated person. It was, you mentioned it. It was, I saw the demand was there. And then number 2, I had the buyers asking me. So I'm not one that goes out and creates a product and says, I think people will like this. No, I want to see where the demand is. And then I get a product that they were looking for and asking me for, and then I fill the demand. So I'm kind of lazy. I don't like to create. I like to fill.
Wow. I mean, a lot easier to sell to somebody that's asking than trying to convince somebody that, no, this is really a good deal, you should buy it, kind of thing. So that's great. So talk a little bit about the the I guess the aspects of the land you're buying and selling. Is it bare land? Does it have a structure on it? Is it acreage? Is it a city lot? Is it?
Yeah. It's vacant, raw, unimproved land. I would say 99% of it. Now, do we get the occasional parcel that had, a house burnt down at one time, so it's already got a septic or sewer hookup and water and electric? Yes, we've done very well building on those parcels. I've teamed up with a guy named Dan Habercost, and we started building together, and we've done really, really well, where I could have maybe sold the land quickly to a builder or a developer or someone that wants to build their home and made $20,000 on it. We either order a modular home or build a stick-built house on it and literally make 90,000. So because there's a huge demand right now. The National Association of Realtors says we're 6 million houses short across the country. And then you look at the inventory, and there's only a couple of weeks. And now I remember I was just talking about interest rates going up and foreclosures. So I'm being very careful with what we build. I'm building houses that if I get stuck with it, I now have a beautiful rental. And they're not massive houses, which there's a lot of money in that too, by the way. So what do the parcels of land look like? A lot of time, I break it up in 2 categories. You got the rural stuff, the stuff that I love for cash flow. That's the stuff on the outskirts of the city. And then you got the stuff that's like in a neighborhood where there's already sewer lines running by and water and electric. That's the stuff that we call infill buildable lots. And that's the stuff we sell to builders or developers. I just bought 3 lots down the street from me. And there's a guy named EcoSun Home Builders. And he's got a lot of demand right now to build his houses. What do builders need? Land. So I just listed the parcels with him. He put them on the MLS. He put his beautiful model home pictures. And now we're going to sell them to someone looking for a brand new home without a power bill or a water bill, because these solar panels are going to cover their electric, and then they'll have a well. So it's a really cool deal. So you just team up with guys like that or build it yourself.
Oh, sweet. So the purchase price, you mentioned like a couple $100. Is that the net price of the property? Or are you finding, uh, is there owner financing, or how are you? Describe a little bit about the in and out of I guess the money side of this. I know
Yeah.
you've talked about it, but I'm just kind of curious. Is it predicated on you coming with cash? Are
Yeah.
you getting a loan? Are you owner financing? What's the means?
Well, I mean, I'm sure I could have gotten a loan from that guy for $285. And, but I didn't have to at that point. And really, it's funny how it worked out. I was so afraid to buy the land and spend $285. I lined up a buyer first, and she agreed to close on Wednesday with the title company. So I told the seller I would pay him on Tuesday. So that way my money wasn't locked up too long, right? Because I was like buying, we had just moved across the country with the military. I had diapers to buy. We just had our first baby. I was broke in 2016, man. The second one was 500. That one I actually wrote the check for before I found the buyer, because I was getting a little bit more confident. You get really cocky when you start winning. Tony Robbins says, when we lose money, we ponder. When we make money, we party. So we learn a lot more from our failures. So about the 10th or 12th deal that I'm using my own cash for, I'm not even getting financing. They did start costing more and more and more, though. I think the next one was $1,300, and the fourth one was from a bank. I actually got under contract for $25,000. But here's how I sold that one. I didn't even need a loan. I went out and put signs up all over the place. And I said 44 acres, 38K, phone number. And I put 30 something signs out, and I started getting phone calls. And it was literally, a gift from God. Basically, these people had just sold their ranch in Texas, and they're driving around Colorado looking for somewhere else to buy. And they saw my signs popping up while they were driving around. So no, I wasn't getting loans at first. There's some things I'm doing now, bigger deals. We just bought one for 1.2 million. We're working on another $4.5 million parcel that we're bringing in partners for. That's a totally different. But yeah, I wish I was still plucking those $285 parcels out to make $5,000. But you could spend. I mean, I've found that bigger deals take just a little bit longer, but there's way more zeros at the end of it.
Oh, that's awesome. On those larger deals, what kind of timeline do you find between acquisition to disposition? And I assume if you're developing the land, that's obviously a whole nother kettle of fish there. But is it? I mean, you've been talking about buy it on Tuesday, sell it on Wednesday. What kind of timeline are you dealing with these larger deals?
Yeah, the larger stuff that we put on the MLS, and it depends what area it is. There's certain parts of Texas, boy, we can sell this stuff in like 12 hours. Um, Florida, 30 days. But our development stuff, that's the stuff we're sitting on. That takes a lot more time. And then a lot of times we will get it under contract with a due diligence period, so we can start working with the city, start talking to the engineers to do the drawing. So that's like more like a 6 month, sometimes it takes us 6 months just to buy it. Because if I go and buy a piece of land, like we're looking at another deal that we can put almost 300 RV lots on, and that price tag is a little higher. Now, if I just went and paid that price without having the stamp of approval on engineer plans from the city, that's totally gambling. And I mean, you might get lucky, kind of like I was in the very beginning of my land business, till I started making big mistakes because I got cocky. But you learn the hard way. So I would say, to answer your question, it's all over the place with acquisition to disposition. It just depends. There's so many variables.
So, in the introduction there, mentioned that you do coaching. Do you tell me a little bit about your program, your students? What are you? How are you working that?
Yeah. So I am fortunate to be a wholesaling Inc. coach. I am their official land coach. We have a course that we put together that is the action steps of how to build a land business that will serve you and your family and others. Just like I did, just like I started out, because I just assume everyone starts out just like I did. No money, no time. So that's the way the course is built. And it's all about revenue in the first position. Like, I don't talk a lot about CRMs and starting an LLC, none of that stuff. I want to get money in your pocket like within 30 days. And then we start worrying about building the business blueprint. And then it's weekly coaching calls. They are recorded. We're on there every week. And then we have a support group so you can get your answers. You can get your questions answered daily, because I can tell you exactly what to do. And then you're going to get a little roadblock, and then you're going to have a question. So that's where I found that a lot of these, I went to so many seminars, Darren. I read so many books, but what would happen was I would fizzle out because I'm like in my own little like playground here, like getting kicked in the stomach all by myself and no one else to talk to. And the biggest thing about our weekly calls is we're always sharing wins. Like, you got to start with the win first before you ask the question. And a lot of times these wins is, I just made $200,000 last month, or blah, 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 you name it. I just sold my first parcel of land. I just got a parcel under contract for 45,000. I already have a buyer for 90, like things like that. That's what I needed when I was just starting out. Maybe it wouldn't have taken me from 2007 to 2013 to keep, just swinging the bat.
Oh, that's awesome. You mentioned your dad's doing this now. How long has he been doing it?
Geez, I would say 2.5 years now is probably the first land deal we did together. And it's funny, one of the buyer that purchased that parcel of land, it was this Latino couple. We couldn't even understand each other. Their child was translating, and they just paid their parcel of land off in Indiantown, Florida. And we're super excited because that was like one of the first ones we did together, and we just changed those people's legacy.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So Brett, your students and the success you mentioned everybody's having in the success calls net. I'm curious, how much of the success that your students are having would you relate to the system you have I'm assuming you have a system that you introduce people to, versus just their umption or their want to, their drive to succeed?
I love it. Yeah. Every student that comes in, Wholesaling Inc. student or Land Shark student, we all want to make money. But that motivation goes away as we make mistakes and spend money, and we're not getting the phone calls. We don't do a deal within 45 days, and the next shiny object comes around, or our mother-in-law says, why are you doing that? The problem is like we all regress to the mean. We all go back to our old habits. But the systems we build with the Land Sharks, it's a community. And if you stay plugged in, you listen to the Wholesaling Inc. podcast, you hear the wins that are constantly happening. And I was the reason why I know this so well is because I was one of those students back in 2016. Every single day on the way to work, I would still listen to the Wholesaling Inc. podcast. And I just wanted to hear that John and Sally, that Corey and Carrie Raymond, that Brent Daniels was still having success, because even though I had already had success in real estate, I already owned multiple properties by 2016. It still was not solidified in my mind that I could do it. Yeah, maybe they can do it. But every single day I needed that motivation. It's like taking a shower. We got to still bathe every day if we don't want to stink, sometimes multiple times a day. It's like working out. You can't just go to the gym once a month. So one is that, and two is the system that you plug into, and we show you what to do, when to do. We're not educating you. We're directing and giving you action steps. And then we're there, the system, to when you hit the roadblock, when you hit the probate problem or the financial or the legal issue, to walk you through, okay, yeah, we've been there. Here's what you do now, type thing. So it's 100% the systems, and not just someone just wanting to make money, because we all eventually want to make money. That's why we go to your YouTube channel or listen to this podcast.
And another curiosity, your students, what's the average time it takes for somebody to get their first deal?
Yeah, I want to say the average, I want to say it takes about 4 months or so for most. Have I had guys make money in 29 days? Absolutely. Has it taken some a year? Absolutely. So I want to say the average is probably about 4 months.
Hey, Brett, if we could, I want to shift gears here for just a quick second. In the, I didn't mention it before we started, but you've been on here before, so hopefully you know the drill. By day, I'm an insurance broker, and I like to ask my guests, about risk. As an insurance broker, we try and do some risk management. We try and assess the risk and determine what to do with the risk. And there's a couple of different strategies we typically try and employ. The first is we look to see if we can avoid the risk. When that's not an option, we look to see if there's a way we can minimize the risk. And when we can't avoid nor minimize, then we look to see if there's a way we can transfer the risk. And that's what an insurance policy is. And as such, I like to ask my guests if they can kind of take a look at their own situation. It could be their clients, the market, interest rates, however you want to frame the question and the answer. But if you can take a look at your situation and consider what you see as the biggest risk. And again, for clarification, while I'm an insurance broker, I'm not necessarily looking for an insurance related answer. But if you're willing, I'd like to ask you, Brent Bowers, what is the biggest risk?
I think the biggest risk is me dying and my children and my wife getting taxed to death with this real estate that they're probably going to sell because I didn't set up a plan with trusts properly. I didn't have proper life insurance. Like it talks about this great book that I read called Become the Rockefellers, and using a whole life policy to, be your own bank. So I think that's a huge risk. And it's like, I'm just recently learning about these things and implementing these things to where I can fund this policy for, maybe I get a chunk of money, 10, 20,000. I can fund this policy and now it'll pass to my family tax-free. And then, maybe I need that 20,000 later. I can borrow like 90% of it at 2 or 3% interest. And that 20,000 is still making the 6% interest with the dividends and all the stuff. So I think that's a huge risk. Business owners not having that, and talking to you, Darren, about that sort of thing, because the Rockefellers set it up to where it passes on. That's why they still have money 6 generations later. And the Vanderbilts don't really have as much money as they used to. So that's a huge risk. Taxes and death, 2 of the things that we're all pretty much guaranteed.
Yeah, the unavoidable, death and taxes. So that's good stuff. Brett, where can the listeners go if they'd like to learn more or connect with you?
Well, I got a great YouTube channel. If you go on YouTube and just search Brent Bowers, I talk about this stuff 5 days a week. I've got a video coming out 5 days a week. And I'm sorry, I just got really excited when you asked that, because I've been pouring so much time and effort and airplane flights to build this YouTube channel. So I just ask that please subscribe. Even if you don't like the content, just still subscribe.
Well, I will make certain that happens for me anyway. I always enjoy speaking.
I already
with you.
subscribed to your channel.
Yeah, no, I want to return the favor. Brett, I can't say thanks enough for taking the time to talk today. It's always a pleasure, and you bring good information, and I appreciate that. Hopefully we can do it again soon.
My pleasure. Thank you. God bless.
All right. For our listeners, if you like this episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Remember, the more you know, the more you grow. That's all we've got this week. Until next time, thanks for listening to Commercial Real Estate Pro Network's CREPN Radio.